Welcome to the Horror Basement Interviews,
where Jim Jam,
Johnny,
and Yeti
talk to people from all aspects of the horror community and beyond.
What's up, guys? It's Yeti here. Funny story, I did a little solo interview with the shot-on-video Tennessee legend, Donald Farmer. What you're getting is about the last hour of an almost 2-hour interview because I have a hand recorder that I record speakerphone conversations on to transcribe and whatnot. You know, I've been doing this interview shit for years. Well, in the middle of the interview, my fucking hand recorder breaks down. It died completely. So I had to rush and grab another phone, turn on the voice recorder, and hope for the best. And I figured, you know, I transcribed it all out. You know, pieces of it are here and there, but I wanted to give you guys the full effect. So what you got here is the salvaged last 50-something minutes of mine and Donald Farmer's conversation. To kind of set it up, we had been talking a little bit about Shark Exorcist and some other stuff. And right before this audio picks up, I asked him about the Cannibal Hookers remake, and that's where he comes in here. Hope you guys enjoy it.
The new one is editing now, so the new one is supposed to have its world premiere this summer. We're scheduled to have our world premiere, I think, in July at the Concave Film Festival in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So that's when we're scheduled to have the world premiere of the new Cannibal Hookers this July.
I am excited for that. I actually just bought a DVD of the original from Walmart. Not like physically, but online.
Yeah, they sell pretty much all a lot of my stuff online, but you can't, not necessarily in the store. And I've only seen one of my movies actually in a Walmart store. That's the Vicious Kiss with Margot Hemingway. I did see that in a Walmart. But yeah, usually, and Best Buy has carried several of my movies in the past. Best Buy's carried 4 or 5 of them. Although not so much now. Best Buy is getting, every time we go to Best Buy, they have fewer and fewer Blu-rays and DVDs. It's like they're just phasing them out and getting out of that business because the DVD section shrinks every time I go there.
Yeah, it seems like digital media is just killing it.
So, yeah, just all the streaming is killing it for sure. And because Best Buy used to have a whole aisle of nothing but horror, and now the horror section is just microscopic. So, pretty sort of sad. I like to be able to see these movies in a store before you order them online, just so you can see what the box looks like and look at it and everything. But now you have to, if you're ordering stuff from Amazon, you just have to go by the little thumbnail picture on the Amazon ad. And most people don't even order a physical copy anymore. They just wait for it to show up on Netflix and stream it.
Yeah. It's like...
There's some movies that I'm content just to watch on Netflix, and that's it. But then there's other movies that I do want to have a physical copy.
Yeah, definitely. There's just, even if you never open it, it's just that you have it.
Yeah, I still buy several DVDs or Blu-rays every week because there's always titles I want to have a copy of.
Yeah, there's...
For one reason or another.
Yeah.
Almost always. The ones is what I buy from the 60s or 70s. I almost never buy new ones. New ones are the ones I can stream. It's the older ones I want to own.
Yeah, there's a lot of older stuff that you can't stream anywhere. I've been finding that out lately. Cause
Yeah, a lot of my favorite Blu-ray labels have titles that you cannot stream, so you have to buy them. Like Arrow Video is one of my favorites, and Indicator. I like to get a lot of stuff from British labels like Shameless and Indicator, and then the British Arrow puts out stuff that the American Arrow doesn't put out. And so, and I also like to get stuff from Kino Lorber, and just a lot of. Every once in a while, you'll see one of their titles free to watch online, but not so often. Most of their stuff, if you want to see it, you just got to buy the physical copy. And of course, you can't see all the extras if you just stream it online. You're not getting to see any of the extras.
Yeah, so you're really missing out on a lot of things. But sometimes if you stream it online, it's like, you know what, I don't care about the extras anymore. I don't, you see something hyped up and then you just get disappointed. So it's like, I'm glad I didn't spend that money. So it's a give and take, I guess.
Yeah, when any of my movies ever comes out in a foreign country, I try to get a copy, but yeah, there's still several of my own movies that I don't even have the foreign editions of, so I need to be more aggressive in getting my own foreign editions.
Yeah,
Shark came out in an American version, then it came out in a British edition, which had a completely different cover than the American edition. And then it came out in a Japanese edition, and I don't have the Japanese edition, so that's the one I need to get.
You would think they would send you one of those just as a courtesy. They sent me the American edition, but when it comes to foreign editions, they never send you those. When you're the director or the producer, you always have to pay for those yourself. But I've never known a distributor that would send me a foreign edition. You always have, if you want one of those, you just have to get it yourself. Huh. Well, I'll be damned.
Yeah, like my movie Chainsaw Cheerleaders came out in a Swedish edition. I still don't have a copy of that. Apparently it sold out really quick before I could get a copy, so I need to try to find one on eBay sometime.
I'm sure there's one on there.
Queen and Savage Vengeance recently came out in a double feature DVD in a hardbox edition in Germany. And so that's the only way to get them is in a double feature in one of these deluxe hard boxes, because this edition's not even available in America. It's like exclusively only available in Germany. So the only way to get that is usually on eBay or Amazon.
Speaking of Savage Vengeance, I heard that's getting a remake update thing.
They've already started filming, and I'm doing a cameo in it, and I'm filming my cameo this Sunday. So, yeah, they're going to be shooting in Tennessee this Sunday, and it stars Cameron Glenn, who's the blonde girl in Halloween 5. She's the star of it, and Ronnie Jones is the other star. And then they've got a lot of cameos from different people. They're supposed to have a cameo from that Ella Dietz who was in The Exorcist, playing that demon face, and so anyway, they've already started it, and got part of it already edited, and so they're just moving right along. And after they're shooting most of it in Missouri, but they're shooting this weekend in Tennessee, and then they'll go back and finish it up in Missouri.
That's really cool.
What they've edited so far, it's looking really great.
That's good. I'm looking forward to checking that out. It's like Savage Vengeance is another one of those that I was gonna rent online, couldn't do it.
When it's finished, we'll have a premiere for it either in Tennessee or Kentucky. We'll have it in one of those places. I'm friends with that horror festival they have every year in Bowling Green, so we might have a premiere there, or we might have it at. I'll talk to Ben and see if he wants to have it at the Full Moon Cineplex. But yeah, we'll have a premiere at one of these places.
If you have it at Full Moon, give us a holler. We'll promote the hell out of it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to Ben and see if he wants to have the premiere there, since it's going to be one of my higher profile movies. I'm not directing it. I'm just one of the producers, but it's going to be higher profile since it's going to have some names in it.
Yeah.
And it's really good. She was like a really hot blonde in Halloween 5 that gets killed in the barn, so we're really lucky to have her in it.
I'm really liking how a lot of people who are in smaller parts in older horror movies are really getting some play now in independent movies. I think that's really cool. And it's kind of.
Lynn Lowry's one that works a lot now. She was in a lot of classic horror movies like Drink the Blood and David Cronenberg's Shivers and George Romero's The Crazies. And when I met her in the 80s, she hadn't worked for years and nobody was hiring her, so I put her in my movie with Brigitte Nielsen. And then shortly after I put her to work, people saw she was around and available, and everybody else started hiring her. And now she does about 10 movies a year.
Damn.
And when they remade The Crazies, they let her have a part in it, so she got to be in the remake of The Crazies, which was a major theatrical movie. Yeah, she works a lot. She does probably 5 up to some years she played those 10 movies in 1 year. And Camille Keaton lately has been working a whole lot too. She went through a period where nobody was hiring her, but now she's doing. I think she's got 3 movies that she just did this last year, and one of them was a really big one that just had a New York City world premiere. One of them she co-stars with Barbara Crampton. And then she's got a new one that just had a world premiere in Florida, and she's really, I'm glad to see her finally working a lot.
Oh, yeah.
She did do a Rob Zombie movie, but then he edited her scene out, so even though she got the one with Rob Zombie, she did not appear in the final film. That movie, Lords of Salem, so, but everybody else that's using her, she's they're keeping all her footage, fortunately. Camille even had a movie out last year that was in all the Walmart stores. She was in the new version of A Friend Mine from Outer Space.
I didn't even know they remade that. I'm going to have to get that.
That's the title that's, she has a cameo in it playing a vampire, and that title was actually put in all the Walmarts as a low-priced title. I think they were selling it at Walmart for $9.99.
That's not bad.
Yeah, another actress that did a couple of movies with me, Jackie Hall, she did a Walmart movie not too long ago called Bigfoot Wars, and that one was also in Walmart, I think, for $9.99. That one even had a couple of legit stars in it. It had Judd Nelson from The Breakfast Club and C. Thomas Howell, so it had enough budget to hire 2 stars.
That just sounds awesome. Bigfoot Wars. It's one of those titles that grabs you, that's for damn sure.
Yep. Well, it's all over eBay and Amazon now, so it's really easy to order. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, it was one of Jackie's last movies before she moved to L.A. But she did 2 for me. She did Chainsaw Cheerleaders and Dorm of the Dead. Dorm of the Dead is coming out on Blu-ray in a few months. It'll be in March, I think. It's going to be out on Blu-ray in March.
Yeah, I saw something about that on Facebook. Lots of special features and
DVD about 10 years ago. It's been out on DVD for 10 years, so it's being re-released now, and the new re-release is simultaneously putting it out in a new DVD edition and the premiere of it on Blu-ray. So those 2 editions are coming out at the same time next month.
Oh, wow.
So they're both already on Amazon. You can pre-order them on Amazon.
Definitely worth doing.
That's something I try to do is if I have an old movie I've done that's been out of circulation for a long time, I try to find distributors that will put them back in circulation, make it easier for people to find them, because some of my movies are really hard to find because when they go out of print, it's hard to find them.
Yeah. Well, did Hooker with a Hacksaw ever get a DVD release? I haven't.
So far, all we've done with it is Amazon Prime, but we're going to put it out on DVD before the end of the year. So it'll be either the summer or fall. But yeah, it'll be out before the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm going to.
We're giving the Amazon Prime a little window of exclusivity to encourage people to see it there, and after that, we'll have the DVD out.
That'll be cool. Are you going to use the Simon Pritchard art on the DVD cover, or do you have something else?
That'll be definitely on there. We haven't decided yet whether to do a solo DVD cover or to do a double-sided cover, but it'll definitely be either the cover or one of the covers.
Oh, awesome. I love that guy's work.
Oh, yeah, he's really talented. And we have another really great artist that has done us a poster for Cannibal Hookers whenever we put that out. We've got Graham Humphreys. We actually have 2 really great artists that we have 2 posters for the new Cannibal Hookers. We have one by Graham Humphreys, who does a whole lot of covers for Arrow Video. Pretty much several Arrow videos have covers by him. And then we've got another guy from Italy. His name is sort of hard to pronounce. It's Gianpaolo Frizzi, but it's sort of, I don't know if you should try to spell it because it's, I can't remember how to spell it. But anyway, just say an Italian artist who did it. It's an alternate cover that's really great.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I'm really excited about to see. But I'm gonna have to buy a copy of Hooker with a Hacksaw. That was just, goddamn, that movie was fun.
Yeah, we filmed several places in Manchester.
I had a couple of questions about sets for that. Towards the end, when she's going for the final kill for Raymond, I think is his name. She's in front of this building with this like fetal skeletal buffalo. It's like a skeletal, half skeletal buffalo in a fetal position on the side of a warehouse. Where is that?
Oh, that's in Lexington, Kentucky. We filmed that part in Lexington, Kentucky. We love that. A painting that was on the side of the building, so we had her pose in front of it. That's just actually a real graffiti. That's a real painting. I guess you call it a mural. Yeah. That's a real mural that's on the side of this building in downtown Lexington, Kentucky, and it's like right next door to the warehouse that we were using as our studio, because there's a warehouse in downtown Lexington that is basically our unofficial studio, where we've used it for the last 2 movies. We also used it for Cannibal Hookers. They have space in there where you can create your own sets and everything, and then they have concrete floors with a drain in the floor, so you can make as much blood as you want. And at the end of the night, you could just get a hose and spray it down and let all the blood drain down let all the blood go down the drain. So it's really perfect for filming gory scenes when you're filming on a concrete floor where you know you're not going to make a mess, because you can just drain everything away.
Well, that's handy.
So we shoot in the studio whenever possible, or whether it's a warehouse that we've turned into a studio, and so that's where we had the big torture room scene, and Hooker with a Hacksaw was done at the studio, which happens to be right next door to this building that had that mural you were talking about that looked like an alien fetus or whatever. But that's just a real painting somebody just did an actual mural, and that's a real mural. So we just thought we'd put it in the movie because it looks so great. It was a hell of a shot. That was definitely an awesome choice. Also, the sculpture park with like the rhinoceros and dinosaurs and whatnot. Where is that at? That's about 20 miles north of Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's off of Interstate 65. It's around mile marker 50 where that park is. About around mile marker 50. A lot of it's not there anymore. I was there a few months ago, and nearly all of the statues that we filmed around are gone now. The only one that's still there is the Tyrannosaurus statue. That's still there, but all the other statues, like the gorilla statue and the human dog statue with boobs, those are all gone. So apparently somebody did some redecorating and decided to get rid of those statues. So that part of it doesn't look like it did when we filmed. Somebody's cleaned that section out and got rid of those statues. But so if you go there now, all you'll find from our filming is you'll still find the Tyrannosaurus statue. It's still there. I mean the Triceratops. That's what it was. It was the Triceratops, as we had her on top of it and fondling the horns.
Yeah. Well, at least that's still there.
Yeah. I guess you could look up how to spell that if you're going to print this out.
Yeah, I got that. Shit.
There's a dinosaur park at that exit where you can see, and they have statues of all the dinosaurs, so that's just one of the dinosaur statues we decided to put on.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it is. It's a big dinosaur park at that exit, or somewhere around mile marker 50.
Shit, I'm gonna have to go through Kentucky this summer. Might swing through there, let the kid check out some dinosaurs or whatever.
Yeah, when you go by that exit, there's
there's a big statue of a Tyrannosaurus right on the interstate with a sign next to it telling you to exit here for the dinosaur park.
Yeah.
So you just do the Tyrannosaurus sign, and that's where you exit. And there's also a haunted house at that exit, but it's been closed down. Every time I drive by there, it's always closed, so I don't know if it's ever open, but I've never been able to catch it open. So I don't think it's open anymore, but it's still standing. You could tell they could open it if they wanted to, but apparently they don't. I think Knoxville is the best area in Tennessee to go to haunted houses because you've got 2 or 3 in Gatlinburg. You've got the Believe It or Not haunted house, and you've got that one that you can walk through. At least those 2 I know about. I don't know if there used to be a third one, but I think the third one's gone.
Well, we've got Frightworks. It's a big deal, and it's one of those that has like multiple. No, it's Dead Man's Farm. Shit, there's a bunch of them out here. I can't even make it to all of them during the season.
The Pullman Simplex in Nashville also turns into a haunted house every October. So you can go see a movie and walk through their haunted house. Because that building has multiple theater auditoriums and Ben only uses one auditorium right now for movies, but the other auditoriums are just sitting empty. But every October he turns the other auditoriums into a haunted house tour. So you can take his haunted house tour through the other theater auditoriums when you go to his place and buy the Halloween tour ticket.
Man, yeah, I've been wanting to get out there to that one too, but Jesus, it's like doing this stuff is like October. You're just slammed with everything all at once.
Yeah, we have stuff to do in Knoxville. Knoxville is a great place to be in October with all the golf festival and all the haunted houses you have there. Oh
yeah, I love this town. At least a few months out of the year, you know.
Oh yeah, I've always liked Knoxville. I miss all the drive-ins, and my favorite theater in Knoxville used to be the Fox Theater on Kingston Pike, where they always showed stuff like they had Eddie Warhol's Frankenstein in 3D there, and they showed Monty Python, the Holy Grail, and but that theater has been gone for. The building is still there, but they redeveloped the building and turned it into I think a tuxedo rental place. So it's now been a tuxedo rental place. Every time I drive by it, I don't know if it's been turned into something else now. But and then there used to be a theater further down Kingston Pike called the Capri Twin that had a Knoxville Walk of Fame in front of it, where they had celebrities' footprints and handprints. Whenever a celebrity visited Knoxville, they would put their footprints or handprints in front of this movie theater on Kingston Pike, and then when they closed down that movie theater, they just pried up all the concrete handprints and footprints, and I don't know what they did with them. But they had some famous people. They had Ingrid Bergman from Casablanca, and I know they had Anthony Quinn and a few more, but they just yanked all those out when they shut down that movie theater.
Oh, that's sad.
Nashville had its own, like, sort of their version of a Hollywood Walk of Fame, and they just, one day it was just gone. They just yanked them all out.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's a really good movie theater complex because the Capri Twin was a twin movie theater that always showed midnight shows, and they would have horror movie exploitation midnight shows all the time, and then next door to it was a really big giant screen theater where they showed the epic movies, and then just around the block from it was the Capri Terrace, which had midnight shows, and that's where they used to always show Rocky Horror, and that was watch a movie while you could actually order drinks or order food and have dinner while you're watching the movie there at the Capri Terrace. And all those theaters were all just right next to each other, all walking distance from one another, and now they're all gone, so it's sort of sad.
That is sad.
I think the Terrace building is still there, but it hasn't. Last time I drove by there, it was like a dance studio or some, what they call it, dancing. It hasn't been a movie theater in years.
That's
so it hasn't been a movie theater probably in 20 years.
That's just a lot of history gone for nothing, it seems like.
the last time I went there when they were showing movies was in the early 90s. I went to a showing of Rocky Horror there in the early 90s. Knoxville used to also have this theater in Kingston Pike called the Kingston Pike 4, I believe, and they used to have really good midnight shows. I remember I saw Herschel Gordon Lewis's 2000 Maniacs at a midnight show there, and they showed a lot of good stuff, and that theater's been another one that's been bulldozed. So pretty much all my favorite theaters in Knoxville have been torn down. The only one still there that I used to go to in the 70s is the Tennessee Theater. At least it's still there.
Yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere.
Yeah, they'll protect that one.
Yeah, that one and the Bijou. That'll be it.
There was a third theater that used to be down the street from the Tennessee Theater on the same side of the road. They used to show really sleazy exploitation movies, like they showed Street Fighter and a lot of the martial arts movies, but it's been gone for a long time. There's no trace that it was ever there, but it used to be just right a few doors down from the Tennessee Theater on the same side of the street.
Man.
Last time I was there, they had a poster up that they were going to be showing Sister Street Fighter. That's
awesome. We need more theaters like that. I think a lot. You have the resurgence of like Joe Bob Briggs, and he's kind of showing that there's still that old horror fan mentality. So I really think there's more people would open little grindhouse theaters here and there, especially in like college towns like Knoxville. I really think they could take off.
Yeah, and that's basically what the Full Moon Cineplex is it's a type of grindhouse theater. Of course, they don't show anything on film. The best version of an actual grindhouse that operates just like they did in the 70s is the Belcourt Cinema in Nashville, because that's the only theater in town where you can still see classic horror movies, and at least half the time they're actually showing you the 35mm print, just like they did back then. And if they're not showing you the 35mm print, they're showing you a DCP restoration where it's restored pristine. Last year they showed the original 1977 Suspiria in two different versions. They had the Italian 35mm print that they showed 1 week, and then a couple of weeks later they showed the DCP restoration, so you could see both versions of the original at the Belcourt Cinema. And then they also last year had an Italian horror film festival where they showed a whole lot of rare Mario Bava and Lucio Fulci stuff. Like they had Mario Bava's Black Sunday and Blood and Black Lace, and they had Fulci's a lot of his early obscure stuff, but they're still doing that this month. So that theater is carrying on a really good grindhouse tradition, the way they have all these midnight shows every single month, and they're always showing some obscure horror movie every month.
I'm glad to see somebody still doing it, especially around here.
The Belcourt in Nashville is the only place in town that still uses the 35mm projector, because in their projection booth, they're set up for DCP like all the other theaters are, but they've also still got their 35mm projectors. They even have a 16mm projector in their projection booth, so if they get a print in 16, they can show it too.
Oh, nice.
A few years ago, they were showing that classic 70s Black Exorcist movie called Abby, and they could only get a 16mm print of that, so they showed it at 16mm.
Wow.
And just a few months ago, they showed that movie Superfly, the original 70s movie in 35mm, so I went to that. So they're always showing some grindhouse kind of 70s movie at that theater.
That would be awesome.
They show the original print.
Yeah, I've got to make the trip to Nashville more, apparently. Jesus.
This month is 2 good times to go. I mean, if you go to their website, which is belcourt.org, I think it's belcourttheater.org, I'm not sure, but if you go to their website, it says what days they're showing Blackula and what days they're showing the Lucio Fulci thing, Black Cat, but those are both going to be midnight shows this month. I'm going to have to try to go to at least one of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely consider it, because I want to see the Black Cat really bad. Like, I've been wanting to see it I haven't got to see it yet, and I think that would be an awesome way to see it for the first time.
Oh, yeah, the first time I saw it in the 80s, I saw it at the theater when it first played theaters. Yeah, it really looks great on the big screen. And, so, yeah, I may have to go to that one and see it in the theater again, especially since they're showing a brand new DCP of it. It'll look better than it's ever looked.
Yeah. I don't want to take up all your night, and my wife just got home, so I'll just keep you for a few more minutes. I just want to kind of ask you some, like, really mundane, run-of-the-mill questions to kind of pay the bills a little bit. But, I mean, I'm sure it's stuff you've heard a million times. When you started making films, who influenced you the heaviest, would you say?
Well, I started making movies in the early 70s where I made a series of Super 8mm silent movies, which actually are now out all on Blu-ray. They were all released on Blu-ray a couple years ago in 2 volumes. It's called the Donald Palmer Collection, Volume 1 and Volume 2. So all of my 70s movies, which were short movies, none of them were feature-length. Those are all available now on Blu-ray, but those were all shot on Super 8mm film, and surprisingly, the color has stayed really good on those, and so none of them had the color fade away. So when we put them on Blu-ray, the color still looked really good. And then starting in the 80s, I did my first feature in 86, Demon Queen, which by then I was shooting on high-definition video. And so I did several movies in the 80s on high-definition video, but what had influenced me the most was that I had been, starting in 82, I had been putting out my own horror magazine called The Splatter Times, and then I was also, at the same time, a writer for Fangoria. And so between my own magazine and Fangoria, I would get to go to lots of movie sets and watch famous directors at work. I was on the set of John Carpenter's Starman and George Romero's Day of the Dead and Sam Raimi's Evil Dead 2 and different movies I would go on the set of. And, so basically being on the set of all these movies and watching these other horror directors at work is what got me motivated about getting back into filming and making my own features, because at that time it had been about 10 years since I'd made my short movies in the 70s, which I did just for fun with no intention of marketing them at all. Those were done just for fun. So but by the time it was around 86 when I started making my features, there was like this big explosion of the home video market, because people had started buying home video players, and there were all these companies popping up that were desperate for product because they wanted to be able to release video exclusives on home video, movies that had never played theaters. So the world premiere would be in video stores. So there was just a big demand for product, and I figured out, well, I could make some movies with the resources I have and make it like a little side business, and also it would be a lot of fun to make folding horror movies. And since these companies are wanting them now, I'm willing to pay for them, and they were willing to pay me enough to cover my budgets and to make a little profit. So I started doing a whole series of movies just while that demand was in place, and then most all the ones I did in the 80s were shot on video, and then in the 90s I started doing shot on film movies. Most of my 90s movies were shot on film, and now people don't shoot on film anymore. Now everybody shoots on digital, so now I'm doing that too. I'm shooting on digital now because that's what everybody's doing, shooting on memory cards and then uploading the memory cards into your editing program and editing the movies like that. Which is good, because when I was shooting on film is really expensive, and all the movies I did on film, we were happy to get investors, because shooting on film is way too expensive to do without an investor. I mean, we did one movie that had a $350,000 budget. There's no way we could have afforded that without an investor putting up all that money.
Right.
But then the problem is when we use these investors' money, they were in control of them, and they wouldn't let us do a lot of the things we wanted to do. Like this one investor we worked with, he wanted to write all the scripts, and he didn't want to use any of our ideas. He just said, "You can work on my movies, but you'll
they'll have to film my scripts, and so I just worked for him to get experience shooting on film, and then we found another investor that was willing to give us a little over $1 million to do a series of 4 movies. But with him, he said, you cannot do horror movies. He says, all the movies you do for me have to be action or murder mysteries or erotic thrillers. So he just flat out would not let us do any horror movies because he just apparently didn't like horror movies. And so I worked for him. I did 4 movies for him, but it was sort of frustrating that I kept telling him, if you let us do horror movies, there's a big fan base for horror movies that'll support these movies much more. There's not really a fan base like that for action movies that don't have major celebrities in them the way there are for. But you could do a horror movie with not a lot of celebrities in it, and fans will support it. But I couldn't get him to understand that, so he just never would let me do horror movies. And as a result, pretty much with most of the movies I've done for him, even though they had big budgets, they're sort of been forgotten because they didn't really appeal to any specific fan, a strong, hardcore fan base the way a horror movie would. So I can try to explain that to some people, but they just won't listen.
Yeah, they just... That's something about horror movies is like the fan base is always there. There's always somebody to support, you know.
Yeah, like you're in your situation, you have these 2 websites that support horror films, but I don't see a lot of horror websites supporting no-name action movies or no-name murder mysteries that don't have major studios or major stars behind them, so there's just not that kind of fan base supporting those type of movies.
There's not.
Like this girl that was the star of my movie, one of the girls that was one of the stars of my movie changed to cheerleaders. After we did it, she decided she wanted to make a movie of her own, but she wanted to make a romantic drama, and I didn't tell her this, but, you know, there's not much of a fan base for a romantic drama, as I figured if you make this kind of movie, you'll probably never be able to get a distributor for it, and that's apparently what's happened. She made this movie years ago, and I have yet to see it ever come out. Apparently, she's found out the hard way that it's impossible to get distribution for a kind of movie like that, because there's just not that much demand for romantic dramas that have no stars, that are made on shoestring budgets.
Yeah.
Whereas a movie made on a shoestring budget, you know, if it's interesting enough and unique enough, fans will support it.
Yeah, it seems like horror and like those really artsy, thoughtful kind of films are like the only things you can really do independently and get any kind of push behind it. Everything else just kind of dies.
Yeah, and fans also like really interesting movies that are mashups of an art movie and a horror movie. I think the new Nicolas Cage movie Mandy is a good example of that. It's kind of like a horror art movie.
Yeah, definitely was. And an acid trip, all in one.
Yeah, the fans will definitely support a movie like that, even though it appeals to both horror fans and art house fans.
Yeah, it was big. It's still, you can't say anything bad about that movie online without getting dogpiled.
This romantic dramas, I don't really see a big fan base for independent romantic dramas. And another friend of mine, she's been trying to raise money to do a movie of her own, and she said she wanted to make it based on a true story movie, and the true story she wanted to make it about is how she and her husband met and fell in love. And I didn't even bother telling her, well, good luck with that, because if you make that, you'll never get a distributor for it. No one will want to see it. But who wants to see a movie like that without, you know, if it had Julia Roberts, people might want to see it. But, you know, just local people filming that on a shoestring, that's not the kind of movie people are going to get excited about.
Yeah, nobody's
how you would met and fell in love.
Unless there was some sort of extraordinary like circumstances, like he rescued her from a bunch of methed out crocodiles and sewed her leg back on or something. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell these people. Some people are determined to do these things that are totally uncommercial, but they'll just have to find out the hard way that usually if you're going to make a movie like that, what you should do is you should make it as a short film, because if you make it as a short film, there are at least film festivals that will show it. And
yeah.
If you make it where it fits a niche, like for example, there's a lot of niche film festivals now that appeal to every target audience. Like there's some film festivals that appeal to only people that make movies about transgender people. So if you make a movie and one of the characters is transgender,
then there are film festivals you could put that movie in, because there are film festivals now just for that. Or if you made something that had, certain ethnic groups, there would probably be film festivals you could put that in. But, if you just make a generic romantic movie, it's hard to do anything with it beyond just maybe playing it in a couple of film festivals, and then no one ever hears from it again.
Yeah, as it should be.
That's why I don't do those kind of movies if I can help it.
Yeah.
Although, whenever I've worked for some producers, usually they're calling the shots and they tell you what you have to do. Like I did this 2-part Civil War movie because I had a producer that basically told me he would just hire me and pay me by the week to make a Civil War movie for him. I had no interest in making a Civil War movie, but it was basically a job, so I did it and then tried to write it to make it as interesting and sleazy as I could to make it interesting to me.
Just had to push the limits.
The producer kept trying to spoil it. Like we had, even when we tried to spice it up and put some sex scenes in it, the producer wouldn't let me do it. He kept coming in and saying, "My wife says no nudity in this movie, so don't you be filming any nudity."
Jeez.
The next time I found a producer, right after I did that movie, I found another investor that gave us the money to do the body shot movie, even though he made us change the title. At least he didn't have any rules about not having any nudity. So basically I put twice as much nudity as I normally have in that movie, just to make up for the fact that the Civil War guy hadn't let us put any in. The Deadly Memories movie, some of the reviews actually pointed that out. Some of the reviews complained that it had too much nudity in it. That was just me trying to make up for the fact that the previous movie had insisted that I make it to a PG level. So I figured, I'm just gonna, if this guy has no objection, as long I figured I'll just keep putting nudity in this movie until this producer tells me to stop. But he never told me to stop, so he must be testing this producer to see how far he would let me go. And he never complained, so I just loaded it up with sleaze.
Hell yeah. Okay, I gotta, you've been doing the exploitation kind of horror movies for almost as long as I've been alive. If someone came to you who wanted to get into watching these kind of movies and enjoying them, where would you start them off?
Oh, you mean if they wanted to know which ones to watch first?
Yeah.
Well, if they've never seen any, they should probably watch, some of the classic ones first, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or, some of the Italian classics like Suspiria or Deep Red, and see if they like that, or, I personally like 70s and 60s movies better than 80s movies. I've always thought the best horror movies were the ones in the 60s and 70s, so those are the ones I would encourage people to see. But then there's other people that think the 80s was the best decade because it had the Friday the 13th series and all this stuff like Terror Train and My Bloody Valentine. And so it's just a matter of taste. But I personally like the 60s and 70s better because in the 60s and 70s you had my three favorite studios all creating horror movies. You had Hammer Films, which is my all-time favorite, and then there was Amicus, which was another British studio making all these horror anthology movies like House of Dread Blood and Torture Garden and Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror. And then there was American International, which made all the Vincent Price, Edgar Allan Poe movies. And then in the 70s, they were making great stuff like Dr. Fives Rises Again, and Count Yorga Vampire, and all the way through to one of their last movies, the original Amityville Horror. So these three studios were operating all through the 60s and 70s, and I think they're the main reason the 60s and 70s was so great. Just if you only watched the movies from those three studios, that would be plenty. But then on top of that, there was all the great Italian movies, because all through the 60s you had all the great Mario Bava movies like Black Sunday and Black Sabbath and Blood and Black Lace and Bad Blood and Hatchet for a Honeymoon. And then in the 70s you had the Dario Argento movies coming along like Murder of the Crystal Plumage and Four Flies in Grey Velvet, Deep Red and Suspiria, Opera, Tenebrae, and Phenomenon. So those are just a few reasons why the 60s and 70s was so great. And then also in the 60s and 70s, especially in the 70s, you had major studios and major directors making movies that were just super sleazy, way sleazy, you know, like A Clockwork Orange, which was just considered super trashy when it first came out, and Sam Peckinpah's Straw Dogs, which was a movie that had major distribution and played in every single theater imaginable, or even something like Deliverance. You know, back then major studios were putting out very extremely sleazy movies, which were, you know, a lot of times very politically incorrect, way much more so than what you see today, where a lot of the horror movies that play theaters seem a little more dialed down and more generic and tame. Every once in a while you'll see a movie in theater that's just batshit crazy, like last year Hereditary was probably a good example of a movie that was just shocked people because it was just so bizarre.
Yeah, I think it was nuts.
Usually the movies that play theaters are like The Conjuring or Annabelle movies that are just very generic and very typical and predictable and boring and have nothing unusual about them. Those movies are just not the ones I like because they're just so generic and, you know, there's nothing really interesting about them.
Just kind of popcorn movies, pretty much.
Yeah, every once in a while there'll be a really unique and fascinating horror movie like Hereditary or like Mandy or even that black and white movie, that witch movie, The Witch, that came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So there's always a few interesting ones that are unique and different from the pack. So that makes it interesting. And then hopefully there's going to be a few more like that come out this year.
I'm seeing. I don't see why there wouldn't be. I've been seeing a lot of horror's really kind of making I don't want to say making a comeback because it sounds really stupid, but I mean there seems to be more horror movies that are decent coming out in theaters in the past couple of years than since the early 2000s or something like that, you know.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of exciting new directors. I know the director of The Witch has a new movie he's doing now with Willem Dafoe. The director of Hereditary has got a new movie that's coming out soon. And one director I like a lot is this filmmaker from France, Gaspar Noé. He made a real shocking movie a few years ago called Irreversible. He has a new movie that's coming to Nashville in a few weeks called Climax. So his movies are always good ones to see. He did a movie a few years ago that was freaking out a lot of people called Enter the Void. So he does really unique movies. He makes movies that no one else is doing anything like it. He's totally unique.
I've been on a French extremity kick lately with the bigs, Martyrs, Inside, Frontiers, and that Irreversible is something that's definitely on my list.
Oh yeah, those three you've seen. I've seen all three of those, and those are all really great ones.
I think Martyrs is probably one of my favorite movies of all time now, just because it's so bleak.
One of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen. That movie just made you feel really, really disturbed. Yeah,
I have this thing, like, ever since I started kind of getting into, like, extreme cinema, like, my introduction was, it was Who's Watching Oliver, and then a Serbian film. And that kind of, like, it hurt me in my soul. And it was, and since then it's been something I've been chasing, that empty feeling, and Martyrs really gave me that. It's just like...
the Serbian film was disturbing, but I thought a Serbian film I thought the Martyrs was even more so. I thought Martyrs just went off the chart.
Yeah, and it didn't... the thing about it for me is that it didn't... I don't know, it didn't play so much for shock. It was just empty. You're just so nihilistic. I think that's what made it more effective.
I've only seen the original Martyrs. I haven't seen the remake, so I really can't judge the remake.
I refuse.
That's a movie that really didn't need to be remade because the original was so perfect.
No, and I read a little blurb. The original guy that had attached to direct the remake wanted to give it a more uplifting ending, and it's like you ruined it right there.
Yeah. But that's definitely one of the ones that everybody. That's one of the essentials that everybody, all the horror fans, definitely need to see that. Any horror fan that hasn't seen that definitely needs to make plans to do it.
Oh yeah, it's something that's Yeah, it should be required watching. It should be when people talk about oh, well, you have to watch Friday the 13th or Halloween. Martyrs should be on that list somewhere, I think. But yeah, that's just me, and I'm fucking weird.
The original Halloween came out in '78. I was able to see that at the theater, and I've seen it at the theater several more times since then. I'm glad that they keep putting it in theaters and keep re-releasing it. There was a theater in Murfreesboro near Manchester that showed it in when the new Halloween came out a few months ago. They actually ran it on a double feature with the original Halloween. So
we had a. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't get to see that, but I did see it at the 2 or 3 years ago when that drive-in I mentioned ran it on a double feature with Friday the 13th. So that was a great double bill.
Oh yeah, I bet. We had a haunted house. Well, it's a haunted corn maze. It's called Screamville. Love those guys. But last year they showed the original Halloween on a projection screen by a bonfire, and that was awesome.
Yeah, after I'd seen Halloween and the Fog, I got really excited when I found out, this was like in '84 when I found out that John Carpenter was filming his new movie in Tennessee, so I made I got press credentials and everything just so that I could be on the set for a couple of days and watch him work. But then when I actually got on the set, it was kind of disappointing because John Carpenter, you could never even hear his voice. He would whisper everything, and his assistant director did all the talking. Like John Carpenter, you never even heard him say action or cut. His assistant director did it. And John Carpenter would just whisper, and when he wanted to talk to actors, he would pull them off in a corner and whisper to them. So the entire time I was there watching John Carpenter film, I don't think I ever heard his voice.
Oh, man.
So, kind of disappointing. And then also while I was on the set, usually when I go on a set of a movie as a journalist where you're writing for a magazine like Fangoria or something, they have a publicist who tries to arrange for you to have an interview with the director so that you can speak to them and ask questions. And every movie I've been on has done that for me, except the John Carpenter movie. When I was on his set, the publicist said he refused to talk to any journalists. Apparently he was mad because he'd gotten bad reviews for the thing, which had just come out before that. So he was under the policy of not talking to journalists. So they said, you can walk around and watch him work and you can take photos, but they said, you can't talk to him, he will not answer questions. So that was kind of disappointing because every other director, when I was on the Sam Raimi movie, he talked to me, and when I was on the George Romero Day of the Dead, he talked to me. He even let me play a zombie in that movie, but John Carpenter wouldn't say a word to me.
Well, I'll be damned. That's terrible.
And I was kind of surprised to see the way he works, where he just whispers everything, because when I was on the Sam Raimi set, Sam Raimi talks really loud and is always joking, and you definitely know he's a director because he's very loud and upfront.
Yeah, I saw some behind-the-scenes stuff on Army of Darkness, and dude's very animated.
Yeah, it was really entertaining to watch Sam Raimi work, because when he would, usually on most of these movie sets, when they're through the take, the director will yell cut. But Sam Raimi, a lot of times, he wouldn't yell cut, he would yell big budget. So if he liked the take, he would just yell out, big budget.
That's fucking awesome. Speaking of filmmakers, what would you, if you were pressed to give advice to somebody who's wanting to get into making movies, what advice would you give them?
Well, basically, I would just say, it's easier now than ever to do it, since the equipment you need is more accessible and affordable than ever, now that you can use these inexpensive digital cameras to do movies, and pretty much everybody has editing software on their laptop. So it used to be you have to rent cameras. Even when I had made my early shot on video movies, I didn't shoot them on home video cameras. I had to rent professional high-resolution cameras, which were expensive to rent. So what I would normally do is I would have to get a production company that had these cameras and form some sort of co-production deal with them if I wasn't going to pay them up front. And then anytime we shot on film, you have to rent these very, very expensive 16mm or 35mm film cameras, which then just buying the film stock is expensive. So making movies used to, even at my budget level, used to be much, much more expensive than it is now. Making a movie has never been cheaper or more affordable than it is right now, with pretty much everybody having a digital camera and pretty much everybody having editing software on their laptop. So there's really nothing to prevent anyone that wants to make a movie from making one. All you have to do is write a script and get some friends to act in it, and you're on your way. So there's really no excuse for anyone who wants to do it not to do it. You can do it literally for just pocket change nowadays.
Yeah.
So the problem with that is that when I started making movies, since the equipment was still expensive, there were not that many movies being made because it was financially not feasible for a lot of people. And so since there weren't that many movies being made, there was a demand for product among the various video distributors. There was more demand for product than there was product, so anybody who made a movie, no matter how cheap it was, could easily find a distributor. Almost nobody went without a distributor in those days because all the distributors were just desperate for product and they didn't care what the budget was. Whereas now, so many people are making movies, and a lot of them are really high-quality movies. There's more product than there is demand, so it's very difficult nowadays for everybody to find a traditional distributor. But then the way around that is, if you can't find a traditional distributor that'll put your movie in video stores, then you should go the self-distribution route and just replicate your own DVDs, even if you have to make them DVD-Rs, and just make your own, and then create your own Facebook page or something, or Instagram page promoting your film, and make all your actors promote it too on their pages. That's one thing I always think you should do is whenever you get actors for your movie, make sure that they all agree to promote it on their Facebook or social media pages, so that you have a whole little army of people promoting your movie, and it's not just you promoting it. And then when you have it already, then hopefully all their relatives and friends will want to buy a copy, and you'll have at least this little circle of instant customers. Because if you have, usually your actors are going to want a free copy, but if they're still their friends and relatives might want a copy, so you just encourage them. As soon as you have a DVD ready, tell them, put on your Facebook page where they can order it from, and encourage all your friends to order one, and tell them you'll autograph it or something. Another thing you could do is to give your actors an incentive to do that is if you replicate all the DVDs, just tell them you'll get a piece of the sale price for every copy they sell to one of their friends or relatives. So if you're telling them, I'll give you $10 for every copy you sell, at $20 or something like that, then it motivates them to get out and hustle. So those are all sorts of little tricks you could do to sell your movie if you make your own film and can't find a traditional distributor. So with all these advantages that are just so easy to take advantage of, with all these signs that are so easy to take advantage of, I really don't see what excuse a person has that wants to make a film not to do it. Of course, one thing I would suggest is if you've never made a movie before, usually it's best to do like I did and start out making shorts, because then you can practice filmmaking with the shorts until you feel confident enough to make a feature, because I made several shorts before I started to do my first feature, so that's usually a good idea, is maybe make your first film be a short, just so you can get used to setting up shots and get used to directing actors, get used to editing, and then once you're happy with your short film, then try to go for a feature. But that would be what I suggest.
That sounds solid to me. I mean, shit. And also, don't ignore independent press. We will promote you.
Yeah, because if you're making a horror movie, there's just this huge network of horror websites and press that'll try to spread the word to your target audience, which is other people that your target audience is obviously other people that like indie horror movies, and so you should definitely take advantage of that. Because if you're making a romantic movie, you don't have that going. You don't have a huge network of indie press supporting people making indie romantic movies or indie dramas or whatever. But if you're making a horror movie, you do have that advantage going for you. So you should definitely take advantage. You do have that, so you should definitely take advantage of it.
Man,
friends of mine tell me they're going to make a romantic movie or something like that because it just seems like they'll go to all that trouble and then they'll never be able to distribute it or, outside of their circle of friends. It'll be very hard to get anyone to see it. So there's not that much general interest in seeing other people's romantic movies with no stars in it. It's very limited.